Returning now to the budget set to be handed down in just a matter of hours. Joining us live from Canberra now is 29-year-old Elly Desmarchelier, who has cerebral palsy and is the spokesperson for Every Australian Counts campaign. Elly, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you so much. What is your expectation in this space?
Thanks,
what do you expect to read in the budget papers tonight when it does come to NDIS funding?
Look, I think it's going to be pretty status quo when it comes to the NDIS. I think the problem we have with the NDIS at the moment is less about dollar figures and more about values. I think, you know, the money may increase in tonight's budget, but that's because there'll be more people coming into the scheme. The sad thing is that at an individual level, people who are on the NDIS are experiencing cuts across the board. I myself have experienced cuts to my plan, and that's why I'm here in Canberra. I delivered an open letter today to the opposition leader and other politicians, and I'll be calling for a stop to all the cuts and for more political parties to defend the NDIS.
Elly, we know that the Minister responsible, Linda Reynolds, she denies there are any cuts. She's saying spending has increased by 11% over the past year. As you point out, we are seeing more people needing those services. When we talk about cuts to the NDIS, it is usually discussed at that sort of macro level. If the budget is tightened, what does that actually mean for people like you when you talk about experiencing cuts? What is it that you miss out on in that circumstance?
So when someone's NDIS plan is cut, that means they have to make, and I'll tell you about my own plan. Look, I lost 2 hours a week of community support, and that doesn't sound like very much. But what that means is I've had to sit down and make a decision. Do I go to family dinner or do I go out and go to the movies with friends? Do I go to physio or do I go and do my own groceries? Do I go out and contribute to the community and be part of it, or do I save up those hours in case there's an emergency? Every hour that's cut from an NDIS participant's plan is really a heartbreaking decision that they have to make about the support that they cut from their lives. In my own plan last year, I only received half the amount of support I needed for my own catheter bags. That's the amount of penny pinching we are talking about. It is really practical stuff that people are missing out on.
Elly, it's clear there is a real need for funding certainty going forward. What do you make of this idea we've heard from some quarters that the best way to go about it would be to implement a sort of Medicare-style levy in a bid to secure that funding for the NDIS?
Look, I think that's a bit of a distraction from the government's management of the NDIS. What we have seen in budget after budget is underspendings in the NDIS, meaning they're not investing all they could into people's plans, and they have used that money to fund other things, and now they're saying the NDIS is too expensive. The NDIS is unsustainable. Well, what is unsustainable is the cuts that people with disability are experiencing right across Australia. Being in Canberra today, I was listening to Canberra radio on my way to Parliament House, and a woman was talking about the fact that her NDIS plan had not funded a chairlift she needed because of a risk to falls, and as a result she had experienced 2 major falls that had sent her to hospital. That is, you know, those trips to hospital are much more expensive than the chairlift that she probably needed from the NDIS. So I think the talk about Medicare levies is a bit of a distraction from the government's mismanagement of the scheme.
Elly, we do appreciate your insights. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with your advocacy.